Today on Tricrow Studios, we take a look at some of the reasons why this failed. Alright, so here is my Gibson 2019 Les Paul Special Tribute DC. So the double cut version. You can see that this is in the blue stain, but it looks a little different. Basically, I've done some upgrades here. I put a Tone Pros wraparound bridge that actually allows you to adjust the intonation of each saddle for each string. I changed out the knobs, put in gold screws. I know, I'm a goof. And on the P90s, I changed the poles to gold as well. And one of the biggest things, I changed the tuners to Kluson Revolution locking tuners. And yes, I kept the vintage style, so there's no little like nuts or whatever there. So, in this video, I want to take a look at why this failed. Why do we no longer have this, but we have this instead? Alright, so this was introduced in 2019, and it was discontinued in 2019. The year prior, I don't know if it was just 2018 or if it was 2017, I think it was 2018, there was the junior version of this, which was this, without the neck P90, and the jack was part of the pickguard. 2019 kept the junior and introduced the special. Now, one of the big things with this guitar, especially with almost all of the people that I spoke to, either online, in a store, anything like that, in regards to this guitar here, it was viewed as one of two things. It was either the cheap Les Paul, so the cheapest Les Paul that you could get, or it was a mod platform. So mod platform, basically what I did here was do some upgrades. You could actually, from third parties, buy different pickguards for this. And with the different pickguards, you could have P90s, or you could have humbuckers, because that was one of the, I feel, the mistakes that Gibson made. From the factory, there was only P90s available on this guitar. There was no humbucker option, where there's nothing wrong with P90s. I absolutely love them, and in a lot of situations, I'll prefer them over humbuckers. However, to most people, a lot of people think of them as like a jazz pickup, not something for rock and roll, which is really, honestly, could be the furthest thing from the truth here, because it's definitely used a lot in rock and roll. But with the hum and certain things like that, it did kind of detract people from actually purchasing it. But again, you could get third-party pickguards that allowed you to get humbuckers in here. So it's something that you could get that Gibson didn't provide. And almost every one of these that I've seen in person that's not kind of available for sale does not look stock. Another problem that hindered the Special over the Junior was the fact that if you got a third-party pickguard, you could actually install a P90 neck pickup in the Junior. And with the pricing difference that they have between the two of them, it was technically cheaper to buy a P90 and the pickguard and then install everything yourself than actually buying the special. Another one of the downfalls that I find with this guitar, and a lot of people seem to agree, was the design of the pickguard. It's kind of all over the place. It's definitely nice to see. However, a lot of people thought it was reminiscent of, like, say, a Fender product. And my downfall I find with this pickguard isn't necessarily the pickguard itself. However, it's the routing underneath. So the cavity that you have here is a rather large one, and I find it takes away a lot of the much needed weight for this guitar. So having something like the newer style with a smaller pickguard would have definitely brought in a little more weight that is kind of missing from this guitar. The next downfall I find with this is it was a standalone release, if that makes any sense, even though there was a junior version and a special version, but there was no glossed finished version, so there wasn't like a standard. So if we would have had this and like a Les Paul standard DC as they did have in the past, you know, that has no pickguard, has like a maple top on it or what have you, kind of would have enticed people to, you know, take a dive, dip your toe in here on this guitar before you actually buy that one. And because this is a Les Paul, a lot of people look at Les Pauls as either the single cut version or even an SG. But most of the people that I spoke to that weren't knowledgeable on the fact that this was a previous Les Paul release either thought that it was a rip-off of a Paul Reed Smith, because if you look at the back of it, it looks like a Paul Reed Smith. Wonder where Paul Reed Smith got it from. But a lot of people just thought that this was like a Santana ripoff, even though this is kind of what Santana used beforehand. And then, yeah, it was just, it didn't really have its own proper identity in the lineup. Whatever identity it did have, it seemed to be a lost one. All right, so here is what we got as a replacement for this. You'll notice a few things. This now comes with either humbuckers or P90s. You have the choice. It still has the wraparound tailpiece, so it's the lightning bar. That's originally what came on this. The pickguard on it is much smaller. It's the same as what comes on regular specials. And it's not actually hiding anything. There's no cavity underneath it. So even though this is a tiny bit thicker than this one, because there's not as much of a cavity, this has a little more weight than this, so this is a little more evenly distributed than this. And the next thing that we want to look at, which is very, very, very important, and a lot of people, I heard a lot of complaints about it, this has 2 volumes and 2 tones, whereas this has 1 master volume and 1 master tone. That's a big, big, big downfall, especially when you look at, I know a lot of people call it the Les Paul kill switch trick, where you turn, like, say, the neck pickup volume off and you keep the bridge pickup volume on, and you mess around with the toggle switch like that, and it creates a kill switch. You could not do that with this. It's not that big of an issue. However, I think it's, like, to me, it's something that is really missing on this. Not to mention, most people, when they think of a Les Paul, they think of the single cut, which is a little more balanced, whereas the Les Paul Special Tribute DC feels a little more bottom heavy, even though this is a much lighter body. Alright, so there you go. That's all I really have to say here on the reasons why this failed. Now, one of the big things about this is you can pick them up super, super, super cheap. Whether they're still brand new in the store, they're heavily discounted, or whether you're picking it up used. they are still heavily discounted. So whether you're getting the special or whether you're getting the junior version, if you want to pop humbuckers in here, you can pick this up, and you can still get, like on eBay and stuff like that, you can still get the replacement pick guards here and do that yourself. Anyway, thanks so very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I still want to state for the record, I love this guitar, it's great.